For many years, we have been told that Cricket West Indies lost money. For many years, we have been told that some of the programs that Cricket West Indies wants to implement cannot be implemented because of a lack of money. I am here to tell you today that Cricket West Indies made 62.3 million US dollars last year. That's the amount of money that Cricket West Indies made. 63.2 million United States dollars. Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. With me here this afternoon, I have invited Basil Butcher Jr. and Dwight Chateau to describe the significant revenue that is coming into the coffers of Cricket West Indies. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Sir Carlton, and to all your viewers and listeners.
Good afternoon, Carlton, and to all the listeners of the Cricket Forum. Nice to be here this afternoon.
Yes, my apology. Thank you. Thank you both for being here. Thank you to the viewers for being here. However, before we look at the West Indies annual general report, in which some initiatives were voted down, I just want us to briefly look at the West Indies women team that was selected to tour Pakistan. Sometime around 7 a.m. yesterday morning, the team was released by Cricket West Indies. Basil, I know that there are a number of players in this team that you don't think should have been in the squad, including Shadid Nation.
Yes.
And I think that Dwight believe that Nation should be there. So let's start with Nation, Basil, and let's tell us why you do not believe that Shady Nation should be in the squad.
She is a proven quantity. She has been a failure at international cricket. We know what her performances is, and because she had a decent tournament in a substandard competition, you're gonna return her after you dropped her because of her poor performance over her career. Nah, I mean, Nation is not getting better, so why are we continue with Nation? I prefer to us to have a younger player that have some upside, and Nation is on the other side of 35.
Thank you, Basil. Dwight, why do you think that Nation should be there, though?
Well, as Basil put it, she did well in the tournament that we basically used to select players to go and represent the regional team. Now, I understand where we have a scenario where there is a young upcoming player who is beating on the door really hard. And as a selector, you make the decision to go for that young player instead of say an older player like Nation who has been around for a while. As Basil said, I think she's around 37 and has not established herself as a premier batter in the game. However, who is this young player that we believe should replace Nation on the team? She has gone to regional. She has performed well. I'm curious to find out who is this young upcoming player with all this potential who we believe should be on the plane instead of Nation.
Basil, go ahead.
Okay. No, this is the question I would ask you, Chato. Nation was dropped from the team last year around this time in February, right? So she did not play against Ireland. She did not go to Australia. Gajnabi was in both of those teams. Now, Gajnabi is way much younger, more than 10 years younger than Nation. So if Gajnabi was in those teams, and you drop Nation, because Nation make a few more runs than Gajnabi in this tournament, Nation comes back into the team. When Nation has had ample opportunities over the years. And also the other point is most important. The only way I would ever think of picking back Nation, she would have had to be dominant in a substandard tournament, because the competition that she is going to see when she gets back to the international level is way higher than this tournament.
But how do you react to that, Dwight? And 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 I want to move the conversation. Probably I started it wrong by singling out nation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what I should ask in the beginning: are you satisfied, Dwight, with the entire squad, or are the players that you are not satisfied with, and who would you
Um,
have brought in?
I'm not so much disturbed with the squad that was selected. I've heard your side and I've heard Baz's side, but I really believe that most of those players who were selected deserve selection. I thought if we're using regionals, if we're using the tournaments, I personally thought that they deserve selection. So I didn't really have a problem with the team that was selected from my perspective. But I'm still. I've heard some like yourself say that you believe four players don't deserve selection. I think I've heard Basil indicate five players that don't
Yeah.
deserve selection, and I'm
I
looking for these five other players we all
all right.
believe should have been in the squad.
I could give you them.
Yes, Basil, go ahead. Very interesting. Please go
All
ahead.
right. I gotta start. Campbell should not be in this team. Nation should not be in this team.
That's
Fraser should not
Sherman.
be in
That's
this.
Sherman Campbell from Guyana.
Correct.
Shady Nation
Nation.
from Jamaica.
Sherian Fraser from Guyana.
I agree
Zayda
with that one.
James. Zayda James from Windward Islands, and Kiana Joseph from Windward Islands. Now, who I replace them with? Natasha McLean for Campbell. Gajnabi for Nation. The young girl from Leeward Islands, Claxton for Fraser, and the two spinners from Guyana, Millington and
Munisar.
yes, and Lachman.
Yes.
Those are the players I would replace them with. Now, Chateau said about everybody deserve. I guess he didn't see Fraser play. God, I don't know what Fraser did in this tournament to be back in the West Indies team. And not only that, Fraser is always every time you turn, she injured, as she was during this tournament. She missed the last 3 games of the 50 over because her back again flared up, right? And she took one solitary wicket in that competition. Look at the number of overs she bowled over the entire 2 tournaments, right? She bowled what 12 or 15 overs total.
So you said that you don't think Zayda James should be there also.
Yes.
Say something about that.
No, Zayda James, her bowling, because they used to want to talk her up as a batter. She hasn't panned out, period, as a batter. And she's limited as a batter, right? Very limited in terms of where she can score. The one area she seems to be able to score is when she gets down on her knees and look to hit the ball over cow corner, right? Everywhere else, she's very limited, can be kept quiet easily, right? Her bowling is not, I mean, if you want to compare her with the other 2 spinners I named, it is not comparable, right? Same, and when it comes to Kiana Joseph, her fitness is very ordinary. You watch her running behind the ball, it is a disgrace that she's on a cricket field running behind a cricket ball like that, and now she gets promoted to international. I mean, I don't know if the selectors looking at the same cricket me and you were looking at. Maybe they weren't.
Basil, I definitely think that Nia Latchman, the leg spinner from Guyana, Munisar, the off spinner, also from Guyana, who captained the West Indies under 19 team.
Under 19.
And I also think that Natasha McLean should have been there. And questions must start to ask about Natasha McLean.
Correct.
For there's a lot of things we are hearing, you know, and Cricket West Indies, if Natasha McLean has issues, if there are disciplinary issues or other issues, Cricket West Indies need to come out and say so. And if there's a disciplinary issue, a meeting needs to be held.
Correct.
An appropriate sanction applied. And when it comes to the end of those sanctions, she should be included in the West Indies team. When you look at Natasha McLean's stats for the past 2 years, it's only Ailey Matthews that is better than her. Rashada Williams is catching up. And we saw Stephanie Taylor catching up also. But on a 2-year basis, Natasha McLean is better than the rest of them. Why she's not in this team remained a mystery. And it must be non-cricketing reason.
Correct.
You said you want some names. Are you satisfied with those names that were presented by Basil?
Well, I agree with the spinners from Guyana. I'll say that much. And I think that you have a valid point in terms of the questions regarding McLean. I'll be the first to say that the West Indies Cricket Board has historically been very elusive in providing answers to certain questions and have not provided a sort of forum. I personally was a bit disappointed that the selectors, or maybe you know a bit more than I do, Carlton, that the selectors didn't have a press conference like what they would normally do when the men's senior team is selected, and allow some questions to be asked of them. That has been one disappointing feature. And as I've said before, I would have hoped that from the days of Dwayne Bravo, Darren Bravo coming to know, that we would have an established disciplinary procedure in place. So if there are issues with a player, it can be dealt with in a transparent manner. We can resolve the issue. We can move on with the cricket.
Yeah, I agree.
Basil, on the issue of the press conference when a team is released, realize that this team was released over the weekend, and we are in a long weekend.
A holiday weekend.
A holiday weekend. And Brown gave some quotation when the team was released. When the team was picked for Australia, the female team, they had a press conference. Is it that come Tuesday morning they will have that press conference? You think so? Because you can't have a team select and they don't have a press conference.
Well, you got to keep checking your email cards, and if there will be such a press conference. And I share the disappointment with Natasha McLean not being selected, because this is my opinion. Outside of Hayley Matthews and Stephanie Taylor, she is hands down the most talented woman batter we have in the region. It is not even a close to her, and that includes Rashada Williams. That in terms of batting talent, I seen McLean play some shots that even Taylor can't play. She played a shot off of, I think it was Cornell. Cornell's an international bowler. Hit her straight back over there to Sharjah. No, that is top of the shelf. You know? Not only that, Natasha McLean is the best wicketkeeper in the region. A lot of people don't realize this, you know. She is the best wicketkeeper. She's better than Campbell. She's better than Rashada Williams. And she's also one of the best outfielders in the West Indies.
So why is it then?
We have such a poor team that we could afford to leave such a talent in the refrigerator. We're so good. We could leave a talent like that in the refrigerator.
So Anne Brown must tell us it's a must. And I can tell Cricket West Indies, and I can tell Anne Brown, if there's a press conference, and there should be one, because this should be going away from the norm.
Correct.
If there's no press conference. And when that press conference comes up, Anne Brown must justify it. And anyone hearing my voice, I am going to ask you, Anne Brown, unless you guys ban me from the press conference. But as long as you allowed me in that press conference, I am going to ask you, Anne Brown, why Natasha McLean, the Jamaican, is not in the West Indies women's squad.
Correct.
I am going to ask you to justify her non-selection.
Correct.
So prepare to answer that question.
Well
I
done,
am not going to
Carlton.
be disrespectful, but I'm going to
True.
ask you. So prepare to answer it.
Sir Carlton, I think Anne Brown has been getting away with murder since she has been the lead selected for the women because unfortunately when she go into these press conferences, the majority of the reporters know very little about women's cricket to talk about the players on any good level. So there is never the serious questions like we would have when is the men's team selected, right? I have heard her. I've witnessed several of the press conferences, and they're very vanilla. Even at the times I've heard her on the radio coming on Mason's show. But when Andrew would have his show, he doesn't have nobody in the panel that is versed on the women's cricket that can ask the serious questions as to why player X, player Y, and so on is on the thing. So she's been getting away with murder.
Dwight, any final comment on the women team? I'm going to take the
Well,
comments about the women team before we go to the annual report. So any final comments?
no, well, actually, I wanted to hear from you and Basil if there are any pleasant surprises to the team, or if there's any expectation of a particular a particular player going going into the tour. I mean, for
Yes,
me,
I have one. I have one.
go ahead, go ahead.
Young
Go,
Kate
go ahead,
Wilmot.
Basil. You know I
Young
don't want
Kate
to.
Wilmot. I jumped for joy when I saw Kate's name in there. I like Kate from the first time I saw her bowl for Jamaica in the under 19, and she running. I said I like this. Well, I like fast bowlers, right? I love when they fast bowl, and I like Kate aggressiveness. I actually met her in Florida when the West Indies women's under 19 team was there to play the US, and I stopped her in the lobby. All the team was coming, and I said to her, I like your game. Keep doing it, and so on and so forth. And I must say, Kate has I see the improvement. She's more accurate, more consistent, and I think she can bowl faster. She has a lot of upside as a fast bowler. So I was jumping for joy when I saw Kate's name in the list.
Yes, I was happy too. And the fact is that I spoke to Kate as late as Thursday. I was speaking to Kate Thursday, and she said nothing about it. So I was very surprised Saturday morning. She never told me that she was in
She
she
knew.
was in the
I know
squad. We
she knew
spoke Thursday. Hey,
because
Basil?
I know she knew she was picked and didn't tell you. You know why? Because
Yes.
I was told it was middle of the week. I think it was Wednesday. That two Guyanese, or it's only two Guyanese women got picked in the team. Campbell and what's her name?
Fraser.
Fraser, because the players talked to other players and was telling them who got selected. So I found out. So Kate knew and she didn't tell you.
Yeah, she never told me, you know what? But I will take that up with her.
Yes.
I've invited her to come on the show, and she had asked, she said to tell her when. So I will arrange that. Were there any surprise for you, Dwight? I'm coming to your comments
Not,
now.
not pleasant surprise. I had also said that if there are any expectations, and for me, I'm 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 yearning to see exactly how this team will play in Pakistan. I'm yearning to see exactly how Haley Matthews will develop, and I'm curious to see how Stephanie will play in this particular series. There's a whole lot of there was a whole lot of talk about Stephanie before, and I'm very interested in how she'll perform on this tour and how the team will develop under Haley Matthews. I think that we can all now say that the team is Matthews' team, undoubtedly. She has distinguished herself over the past year, and I'm just fascinated to see how this team is going to develop over the next year.
I think Taylor is back.
Thank you very much.
More
Before we go
probably.
to the annual report, I'm just going to take the comments regarding the squad. You have a final comment there that you were saying, Basil?
No, I was just gonna say to Chateau that what the question marks regarding Taylor was more because she was injured. She had a back problem and could not be the Taylor we know. And this tournament is the first time I have seen Taylor. Even in Australia, she had a decent run, especially the game we beat them when her and Haley put on a lovely partnership. But this tournament is the first time I could say in a long time that Taylor looked like the Taylor I knew. Because not only that she was batting, she was bowling. Because you remember she was shying away from bowling during the problem with her back. and when you would see her in the field, you would hold your breath if she had to dive for a ball that she wouldn't get up, right? And none of that was seen. She was a tailor. I saw the strokes of the tailor of the all playing the ball. I said, well, we got two top batters again.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I realize that a number of persons are asking about the money, but here is Athena is asking, is Sean Diaz has any say in picking the squad?
Yes, he's one of the selectors.
He's one of...
Yeah, let me just let you guys know this, because I don't know if you heard this. The West Indies, they let go the third selectors, and they only retained until the end of June of this year the lead selectors for both the women and the men. And the question was asked to the director of cricket on the Mason show by one of the panelists, how y'all got two selectors, and if two selectors have a difference in a certain player, how does this get mitigated? And the director said, well, the chair of the lead selector has a cast in votes. Essentially, the lead selector has 2 votes. So those are the people going to be picking the team, the head coach, lead selector. Same thing will happen for the World Cup and the tour to England. Desmond Haynes and Sammy will pick the World Cup team, and Desmond Haynes and Andrew Coley can pick the team going to England for the Test series.
Thank you. And this is a question, a lot of question is asking about Natasha McLean, and and this is asking if there's a personal problem. Mikel is saying no Millington, she had most wickets in the T20 base, and no Munisar, who had most wickets in the Super 50. I have Munisar in my squad. I don't have Millington, but I have Munisar.
The reason why I wouldn't pick Munisar, you already have Haley Matthews and Ramarak. Both of them are off spinners, right? And Munisar bowls just like Ramarak. It's mostly straight ball and line and length. Whereas Millington is one that gives a little tweak and spin and so on. So that was why I would go with Millington. And Millington and Millington gotta feel hard done. Year in, year out, this woman comes and plays in regional tournaments, and she's up there, and not only up there in the wickets, her economy rate is astounding, and she can't get a look.
Yes, so there's a lot of question about Millington. Keith Aaron is asking you a question, Basil. That's a question. You may answer it, or you choose to Basil.
Yes, I am the son of the legendary Basil Butcher.
Yes. Now, Dwight Chateau, I know this is your forte, sir. Cricket West Indies made $62.3 million last year. After expense, it comes out to what, $14 million profit? Dwight Chateau, give us a breakdown how we can understand what really happened. The viewers are expecting now to hear from you on how this money comes about. Your take, Dwight.
Well, I don't want to say that there's a huge surprise in terms of what has happened this year. The West Indies Cricket Board also made a decent profit last year. This year, they had revenues of around 62 million US dollars. Last year, they had revenues of 78 million US dollars. Last year, they made around $20 million worth of profit.
Just a minute there. Last year, as in 2022,
yes,
they made 75 million.
No, they had revenues of 78 million.
Right.
And this year they have revenues of 62 million. Last year they had a profit. I think it was somewhere in the region of around 20 million. And this year they have a profit of 25 million. Now, 11 of that is for some re-evaluation of property and plant. So it's really around $14 million, as you said, another $11 million for some re-evaluation. But it's still a situation where this is the second year that they have had very good profits coming into the coffers of West Indies cricket. This year is the most profit that they have ever made in the last decade. But importantly, they have moved from having a deficit of $2.5 million dollars last year to now being having a surplus in terms of retained earnings of almost 12 million US dollars that they can now use to take forward and drive the cricket. It's important to understand that the West Indies Cricket Board over the last 10 years have never had a surplus of this magnitude going
When you
into a
say
new cricket.
when you say surplus, you mean after them pay all their bills? Because I saw on the balance sheet that they owe no money. So surplus means when they pay all their bills, they have 14 million to do whatsoever they want to do with that. That's the understanding?
No. I'm saying 11 million is going
Yeah.
over in, they now have a surplus of retained earnings of around $11 million to, that they now have in the business that they can move forward with. And let me just explain. They have a couple of loans that they're still carrying. But the good thing is those loans are pretty much very close to the back end. I think they will retire one of those loans in around July of this year. So we're really seeing a West Indies Cricket Board that is moving into a year where they have an England tour later this year, even though it's a white ball tour. They have revenue that they're expecting for the World Cup cricket that's coming, and they're going into a season where they have where they have reduced their debt and they have money in their accounts to move forward to drive the cricket. So this is a great period for the West Indies Cricket Board going forward. All right. And the driver for this has really been about one, the money that they have gotten from the ICC, and two, the media broadcast deals that they have negotiated. In fact, those represent around 80% of the revenue that they have made. All right. So although we have heard a lot of talk about how bad the situation is and all of that, and I agree that the situation is not the most favorable when compared to the big three, they still have been in a place where they have been able to be profitable out of their operations. And for me, Basil, now that we have this money, the important issue for us going forward is what are our plans going forward?
Yes. One of the things we must say that coincide with this surplus in the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, the two money making tours came to the West Indies. India came and England came, and they both came again in 2023. So that is not a coincidence why we're in the black, because those are the only two series in which West Indies board makes money when those two nations come to the Caribbean. So that helped a lot to erase debt, and now we got the World Cup. Yes, and you raise a good question there, because that's a question that was asked to the CEO. Now y'all have the money. Y'all make sure everybody is paid up, because there's still some complaints out there about teams and so on, in the domestic competition have not been paid for the Super 50 and so on and so forth. And I understand all of that will be cleared off, so everybody would have been paid up. But the question is, how is that money going to be used? Because they went on a health check, as using the term used by the director of cricket, where they went to all the various territories and the franchises to synergize. So I guess that would be a situation that would be addressed more forcefully. We've seen the increase in the prize money. They're also talking about where the women cricketers, there will be an equity in terms of how much they'll be paid. That will come up. That would be somewhere around 2027. Numbers I have heard that a woman playing cricket for the West Indies by 2027 could be making somewhere up to 200,000 US a year. So from if as that's been projected, That's excellent, because one of the issues in terms of getting girls and so on to come and play cricket, parents would be like, why should I have my daughter go and play cricket? There is no hope or benefit in this. But now a young lady could play professional cricket, play for West Indies and making $200,000. You know, I mean, that's a lot of money living in the Caribbean. I mean, even in America, you're making 200,000. You're making good money, right? So
Yes.
all of those things are positive signs. And you know, the World Cup gonna put a lot of money in the till, not only financially, but facility-wise. Because one of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, in all the countries where the World Cup is being played, they're
Upgrading the facilities.
street grounds where the teams practicing, and they've had to upgrade those facilities in terms from the ground, the pitches, even building indoor type facilities on the side. That would be a legacy after the World Cup is done. So you would have like 3 extra fields in all of those countries, grounds that would be of good quality, which is good, because we all know West Indies facilities, we way behind the 8 ball.
Yes. And yes, I want to make a point before I come to Dwight. West Indies always tend to overpay players. The number one reason for that, I think it is deliberate. In the past, there are players who have racked up bills at hotels and so on, and West Indies have to end up paying those bills. So what West Indies is doing in these days is that they hold back on some of the money to ensure that if any bill is racked up, it is cleared from the players earning, and that Cricket West Indies doesn't have to take it on. And I think this is fair, because these guys used to really rack up some very high bills, you know, and West Indies, Cricket West Indies has to clear it up.
Yeah,
This one is for you, and I'm asking you to speak in layman terms now, terms that I can understand and the general public can understand when it comes to financing, and, you know, retain earnings and revenue and so on, some receivables and so on. Now, those are way over most of us, Ed.
Yes. Break it down, Chato.
Yeah, there's another word that I've seen the president is using, Dwight. An economic impact value of $3 million, 300 million US dollars.
Yes, I heard that term too.
Economic impact value. Dwight, please tell us what exactly that means. Are we going to make 300 million US dollars from the World Cup?
No. I just think when he speaks about the economic impact value of the upcoming World Cup, is that he is trying to present what he thinks the value of goods, services that will be generated out of the World Cup. Everything from the man who's selling coconuts to the money that will be made from ticketing and everything. The overall impact that he believes or they're estimating that the World Cup will have on the economies right around the Caribbean.
Yes, that correct. Yeah, that's exactly what Chato was saying. Yeah. All the different territories where the World Cup is going to be played, that would be the kind the economic impact in terms of the revenue that derived in all of those different economies.
So this is the revenue that the hotel will make. This is the revenue that the taxi operator, the transport operator will make. This is the revenue that the persons in the museum and the craft markets will make. This is the revenue that the restaurants and the persons who selling their coconut on the street and so will make. So
even Carlton and Chateau, I've heard my Bajan friends talking about how, roads, all the roads that like lead to them practice grounds are being repaved. So because you know the fans that will be there who want to go and watch their teams practice and so on. So you can't got bumpy roads. The tourists, you want them to have and particularly for all those territories that tourism is very high on their for their economic thing, it's good for them to have a great impression to all these fans that will descend upon the Caribbean, that they would want to come back again. So they will want to put their best face forward and so on. So yes.
Do I
Yeah.
and I hope you can answer this one without it looking political, because this is not a political question. When the figure was brought out that I think Jamaica needed to put up 300 million or something, or there was a figure there. But when you take into consideration all these things that Basil is saying that is happening, it was more than the 3 million US dollars that Jamaica would have to find.
Okay. Clearly, when the JCA presented their numbers as to what they believe Jamaica would have needed to host the World Cup, I think personally that they would have presented a figure that came out sounding like it's not a lot. I was a bit surprised that it was only. Sorry, I was a bit surprised that it was only 3 million US dollars.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of discussion, and you have heard it, as to whether or not the government should have invested in it, in the project, versus whether or not it should have left it alone. They had a bad experience coming out of the 2007 World Cup. They did not bid on the, what was it? Was it the
2010 men's
Thanks. Thank you very much. And I personally, this is just my personal opinion, I personally believe that it was a political decision that they made when they decided not to go forward. The government was about to go into a local government election that was maybe around 18 months away from a general election. And I honestly thought that they were looking at the money that they had and looking at what they believed they could get bang for buck from. It is likely that the returns that they would have gotten from the World Cup would have taken a couple of years before they really saw the sort of returns that they would have wanted for the World Cup. And I personally thought that they were looking more on, let's look at fixing roads, let's look at looking at water supply issues, let's look at hospitals, let's look at doing some things that the people can feel here and now, rather than to invest in something that might be a long-term project. That's just my personal opinion.
But let me just.
It was a decision that divides opinion. Yes, Basil.
Because I got this from Jamaicans. So it's not me talking. Because this whole discussion was exhausted one day on Mason's program with Chris Darren, Dr. Mansing, and so on, right? And from what I heard Dr. Mansing say, around 2.5 million of the money that we were talking about would have been upgrading of infrastructure. So that would have been something, a long-term benefit. Because one of the things they would have to replace at Sabina Park, they would have to get a new scoreboard, which is over $1 million US. That alone. And upgrading the ground. So you would have had a facility upgraded, really upgraded. That would be there is a long-term project benefit for many years to come.
No, Basil, we got that. And as you said, the topic would have been exhausted. But the question I was putting to Dwight is that the figure that the JCA gave, which was $3 million, according to what you know is saying that is happening in the other countries, that 3 million US dollars was more or less cricket related and not social infrastructure related. So the figure would have been much higher than the $3 million. That's what I'm asking.
And I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, yes, I believe when all is said and done, you would have had to have had a bigger investment than just that $3 million. You would have had to have looked at infrastructure within the country itself. Apart from that, you would have had to have wanted to have set up certain meetings with people who would be coming in for those games to see whether or not you can make investment moves. And that costs something. All right. So the investment would have been more than $3 million, in my opinion. I just thought that the JCA, through their reps, they're going to present a low ball figure as possible to try to win support.
And I want to move on from this quickly and go on to the governance. I will say the last word on it. I am not here saying, and I sure Dwight is not saying it or Basil is saying it. We are not yet here saying that the government should have bid for the World Cup, and we are not saying that they should not have bid. We are
Right.
not saying any one of those. What we are saying, based on what we have seen happening in the other territories that are hosting the World Cup, the figure would have been more than $3 million. That's all we are saying. We are not saying whether they
I
should or
mean,
not.
it could be, but you see, like Jamaica, for example, y'all have a tremendous tourist infrastructure already. So it's not like you would have to invest in upgrading that as it is. You see, I thought, for example, because I don't know if you see the problem I've heard from folks in Jamaica that were close to the situation was that the JCA should have had brought in other people to put together a proper proposal that they could have taken to the government to show all the benefits thereof that will be derived in the long term, in the short term, etc., for the Jamaican economy, the country, etc., etc. Because there will be no event larger than a cricket World Cup coming to the region. That's the largest we would ever get. We ain't getting no Olympics. We ain't getting football World Cup. Cricket World Cup is the largest event. And the amount of eyeballs that's going to be on those TV screens for you to showcase your country, it would only go up exponentially, you know,
Yes.
because Jamaica got a
And again, I must say, Basil, there are persons, just to be fair, and I'm not here saying one way or the other, but I'm sure that someone else will come in and counter that view. So, yeah. So, now let's move on just in
If
this
I
one.
can, if
We
I,
are a cricket channel. We are not a political channel. So let's move on.
no,
Yes,
no, if
man.
I can, is it possible for me to respond to what Basil said? Because he said something interesting.
Go,
Huh?
go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. Basil, I 100% agree with you. I personally thought that the strategy that the JCA should have taken, and I don't know what exactly was done. So maybe somebody will come out and say, Dwight, you're wrong. This is how we did it. But I personally thought that the way the strategy should have worked. Number one is that you had to have approached the government way before the budget. So the budget is read sometime around March. They should have been on the government from last year, the year before, August, looking to approach them, but not just simply approaching them as a cricketing entity, because governments are interested in votes.
Exactly.
So they had to put together a cross section of stakeholders that they would now approach the government, especially people who are in business. And this particular government loves the idea of developing business and increasing revenue and presenting the project as a project that would touch a wide cross section of people and not just simply be about upgrading the facilities at Sabina Park. It had to be more than that.
So it should be
you're
really
spot on.
It should really be all the events around the cricket. Yes, do it. There should be a whole event
You gotta put
package
100%.
plan.
And Guyana have shown us the template. Because when the CPL is in Guyana, it's a whole event package around it. I recall one night I was in a CPL match in Guyana on a boat out in the middle of the ocean, because that was part of some of the events that was taking place.
And that's why I say, because of the brand, Jamaica has such a tremendous brand already, and I think that's the issue I've heard from people on the ground in Jamaica vis-a-vis the JCA, that they don't have the capability in the JCA per se to put together a plan like that. That they need to have gleaned on outside sources who have that expertise to assist in putting that together. That the government, when the government would have seen that plan, would have been like, wait, no, this is a deal too good to bypass, right? But
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
They just said it. Let us look
No.
at the governance issues now in West Indies cricket. There was a lot of resolution that was voted down at the annual general meeting. Basil, do you want to start or you prefer Dwight?
I will start with the two that I understand that were voted down. One was term limits, and one was extending the duration of a term from 2 to 3 years. I agreed with the president's position, Dr. Shallow, where he was stating, 2 years means like after 1 year you already on you rather than you focusing on cricket, you start campaigning to get re-elected the next election with a 2-year, which is very reminiscent of what we have here in the United States in Congress. The Congress people, as soon as they get elected, within 6 months of election, they start campaigning to get the next term because of the 2-year term. So the focus, how much focus is on what their constituents need, other things, is pushed aside for the election campaign. But where if you have a 3 years, you could focus 2 solid years at least, and you're looking to get elected maybe the next 6 or 8 months, you could start looking at to be re-elected. So I agreed with that, and I found it interesting that some of the territories, that one of them in particular, I ain't gonna call name, that voted against it, increased their local board term from 2 to 4 years. And I can call name Guyana Cricket Board. Guyana Cricket Board increased their term from 2 years to 4 years, yet they voted against increasing the West Indies board term from 2 to 3 years. I found that very interesting.
Not hearing you. I didn't hear that, Carlton. Could you repeat?
Could you please react to what Basil just said?
I've heard about the resolutions that he's saying was voted down, and I agree with him. I personally have thought that the life of a West Indies Cricket Board president should be longer than the 2 years as it currently is, because you hardly get a chance to really do anything, for want of a better word. But more so, I'm very interested in finding out about the resolutions that they passed. And I asked it in the context of the history of this whole issue about governance within the West Indies. We know that a few years ago, Don Webby, the CEO for Grace Kennedy, was asked by the West Indies Cricket Board to lead a task force to make recommendations. And the primary recommendation that was made had to do with governance. Now, since that time, there has been an almost standstill on the important issues within that report. And I'd like to use the word important issues because I have often heard the West Indies Cricket Board come forward and say, oh, we have implemented this percent of the recommendations. But the key recommendations are the ones which are not being made. And so I thought I wanted some more insight from Basil to ask specifically whether or not the key recommendation of moving the board from how it is presently constituted to being a smaller board, to being a board that is made up of independent directors, to being a board that is made up of people who have the skill in the areas of business, logistics, finance, strategy, cricket development, and so forth, to run this board, and eventually to do away with having delegates from the territories be the ones who sit on the board.
Yeah, that was voted down.
So let me just explain, try and put it together, Basil, before you come in here.
Yeah.
Presently, the West Indies Cricket Board consists of the president, his deputy, and 2 persons from each of the regional board. Is that so, Basil?
Yes, plus
along with our 4 independent directors.
You have these what they call independent directors. The board now consists.
No. I just want to lay the groundwork.
Yes.
So 2 each from those 6 territories make 12.
12
plus additional independence
Yeah,
directors.
four independents.
I think it's 5 now, and I think they got another one recently.
Okay.
But I stand corrected.
Right.
What Don Webby is saying in his report, instead of those 2 from each territory, which probably come to the board with no specific skill set, you need to done away with those 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the persons on the board must come with specific skill set, whether in management, logistics, attorney, engineering. They must come with specific skill set. And that board should no longer be 17, but it should cut to 5 directors plus the president and the vice president. So I just wanted to lay that groundwork so people understand what's the present situation. But
one correction, Carlton.
Go ahead.
He would not even have a president and a vice president on the board. Whoever the directors are, they are going to elect among them someone to chair the board.
Be the chair of the board. And
so that means these regional board will be giving up the power that they just have now.
Exactly.
They will never vote for it.
And that's the sticking point. Because
turn up your mic, Basil, please. Turn up your mic. Turn up your mic.
Yes. You hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, much better.
That's the sticking point, because the other thing, the CEO would be like a real CEO, unlike what we have now, the president acting like if they're the CEO, right? So and the thing about it, I agree with that concept, because, for example, there is always this constant complaint about the insularity. I've heard from people who are members of the board, would say, when you come to a board meeting, is everybody from their territory, from their specific, fighting for what's something germane to their territory, right? And to me, if you can have a situation where the 6 territorial boards would vote amongst themselves to nominate their representatives of their interests, you will be taking away the insularity a whole lot, because those people will be coming representing the interests of the total, the collective, not I'm representing Jamaica or Barbados or Guyana or what have you, right? So I agreed with that, and that is, as Chateau said, that is the sticking point. There's a lot of other recommendations the Webby report have had that they've implemented, but the fundamental ones, those still remain outstanding, and those are the fundamental ones that are going to transform the way in which West Indies cricket is governed, and we still have not reached there as yet.
Dwight, how can we get rid of this situation where the regional board president and vice president is clinging on to power of being a director of Cricket West Indies? Naturally, a lot of perks come with it, Dwight, and all the trappings that comes with it, and the power. What do you recommend? How are we going to solve this issue?
Carlton, this is a very, very complex issue, because the only way that I can see it being solved in the near term is a situation where each of those those territorial boards should expand the delegates who are allowed to elect them and vote for them. We know, like, for example, here in Jamaica, that the president of the Jamaica Cricket Association, who is going up for re-election, I think the election will be when is it? April? Sometime soon.
Well, I asked him that question, and all your thought, Dwight, are coming back to you.
All right.
I asked Billy Avon that question directly, look in his eyes and ask him, when is the election? And Billy Avon said he doesn't know.
No, I think they announced it. I think I heard something on the news where it was actually announced. The date was actually presented.
I asked him that too. I saw him in Hanover campaigning with the president of the Hanover Cricket Association because he was there campaigning and also a member of parliament. I won't call the name of the member of parliament. And I said, Billy Evan, when will be the election? And he said, I don't know.
Well, I believe sometime last week, just before Holy Thursday, I think I heard something advertising a date for the election. And I'll double check. But I'm saying this.
No, but that will be post. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah,
please.
unless all these presidents of these territorial boards should become mad and decide that they're going to massively expand the voting, what do you call it, the electorate, and allow a lot of others who do not currently vote to participate in the voting process, wherein we would now be able to have a stronger say as to who the president of JC is and have a stronger say as to who the delegates who are going to sit in that boardroom for the West Indies Cricket Board and can indirectly influence the happenings within the West Indies Cricket Board. Unless you have that sort of situation, we're really only left with sitting on shows like these and complaining and just hoping that catches the right ear.
Yeah, I agree.
Basil, presently, 12 persons vote for the president of Cricket West.
Yes.
12. The vice president and the president of each regional board.
Yeah, the two directors from each territorial board, yeah.
Yes. Should we now be looking forward to a situation where instead of just voting for the Cricket West Indies president, we have like the chancellor of the university, the secretary of CARICOM, and all some other bodies voting for the president of Cricket West Indies? Do you think, as Dwight said, we should increase the electorate?
That can be in the mix. But what I would say is one of the fundamental issues is this. You remember Cricket West Indies is a privately incorporated entity. They have letters, they have their whole who are the owners, how the cooperation works, etc. And as it stands today, each one of the territorial boards have an equal share of ownership in this entity. And each one of them have 2 directors to represent their interests in this entity, right? Now, that whole thing would have to be changed, right? And that's something that sometimes is not often discussed, that here we're talking about a private entity that runs a public good, i.e. our cricket, right? And then on top of that, the entity is incorporated outside of CARICOM in a nation state that is not a CARICOM nation state, namely the British Virgin Islands, I think it is, right? So there, even our governments don't have jurisdiction over this entity that's running the cricket in their territories. These are all the contradictions about Cricket West Indies, and so I do not see these 6 territorial boards voting themselves out of ownership of this entity. I'm sorry to say, it is, as I agree with Chato, it's like wishing on the stars.
But Basil, you know, as I was going through this last report from the West Indies Cricket Board, I mean, I had to commend the staff and the administrative body that have basically brought them to this point where they're looking at surpluses, they're looking at more money, they're looking at a favorable setup. But I also thought that right now is a critical stage in the juncture for cricket.
Yes.
You know, we now have the means to make some meaningful changes. And even as I went through the report and I could identify a lot of good, we could also see some questionable issues regarding grassroots cricket, issues regarding cricket, kiddie cricket, issues regarding the loss of funding for the high performance center. All these issues were also identified. And I thought that the issue of governance is really the elephant in the room right now,
Mm-hmm.
where we must look at the example of New Zealand, we
Mm-hmm.
must look at the example of the ECB, and
Mm-hmm.
transition to a board that is in step with modern best corporate practices and make that move. And it's a bit disappointing, in my opinion, that we have some gentlemen who I am 100% sure are committed to seeing improvement in West Indies cricket. But I honestly believe that the conflict of interest that's there is preventing us from making meaningful movement at this time.
I
Thank you very
agree.
much. Let's just take some of the comments now. Basil, Athena is saying that we should invest. Athena is saying that we should invest some of this money in DRS. What's your
Yeah,
feedback on that?
I don't agree with that. We have much more pressing issues to put our monies in terms of our foundation cricket than to invest in a very expensive entity in terms of DRS. I mean, all of us would love for DRS because we have seen some howlers of umpiring decisions in the regional tournament, but really we have to be more strategic in where we put our money. And right now, in my view, DRS is not the place to put our money.
Dwight, would you like to address this one from the champion? I think you were saying something about it. The director of cricket was saying that in the next upcoming years, it will be hard to make a profit based on the current payouts.
They will make a profit in this upcoming year that's coming up. Because they just give the report for 2023. They will make a profit in 2024. Thereafter, they will have 2 tough years to make significant profits before again they will come around to favorable cycles. But this is
Okay.
just how the cricket is.
So 25 and 26 will be rough, but
Yes.
Will be
22,
particular.
Because
22 was
England,
22 was good.
I don't think England or India comes over those 2 years. Is until
No.
2027. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to add to that. That is also part and parcel of the current world environment. It's not favorable for all these our small nations. We have to depend. We gotta hope and pray England and India come to the Caribbean for us to get a surplus. And it shouldn't be it shouldn't be like that.
But there are those who are of a different view that if we fix our cricket and we create such a value-added product, we don't have to wait on these 2 teams to add the value to our game. But that's for another discussion. I just want to go through the comments quickly, Athena, they do. Cricket West Indies do give the players credit card. Good afternoon. Well, it's not only me alone here, Donald Popo. I have some guests here. Thank you, Mr. Casanova. Happy Easter. Sherwin is saying good afternoon to all of us.
Good afternoon.
He said that, have you guys ever owned a business? Yes, I think we all do. I think we all do, Sherwin. So I don't. You can't. You're a bias on businesses. I don't understand what. Do you understand the question?
I'm trying to understand what he's saying. Maybe he has something else to say. Sherwin, let's be clear and say what it is that you think we're biased about.
Exactly.
I love this idea from Athena. CWI should become a public company and sell shares. I love that idea. What do you think, gentlemen?
I agree, because then the true constituents of West Indies cricket, we all would show up at the shareholders meeting, and they have to go according to our whims, not their whims.
Yes, Dwight, I agree that they should sell shares. What do you think?
I think this is a fascinating idea. It's something I've never contemplated.
I have contemplated it. That's why I was so quick to respond. I have contemplated, but I really thank Athena for bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, that's a ready source of revenue right there that they've been complaining about not having revenue. That's a ready source of revenue. They would definitely have to fix their corporate governance issues to go and be represented on any stock exchange across the Caribbean. And you would have the sort of fan involvement and fan engagement that we have all been discussing for some time. I think that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, what Sherwin is saying now, he's saying that you can't have a if you want to be successful.
Oh,
You're
he's probably
completely
talking.
wrong, Sherwin. Absolutely wrong, Sherwin. You need to be biased. If you are not biased, you can't be successful. You have to be focused in one
Exactly.
way and leave out every other things.
You,
Sherwin, you're wrong. Yes, do I go ahead and
Sharon asked us about if we own a business. Obviously, Sharon has never owned a business.
do I?
If you selling eggs, you gotta be biased to selling eggs, not trying to sell paint and a broom.
Yes.
I'm really trying to be patient with Sherwin. Sherwin, just a bit more clear. I'm really trying to figure out what he's trying to ask. So far I'm a bit lost.
And he continues, he said that we know that production must be your bottom.
Course,
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if bottom line is the right phrase, but
no.
I think we know what you are saying there, Sherwin.
The quality of production.
Yeah. West Indies cricket is on the right path. They have gotten rid of their, I think you want to say overwhelming. I don't know. Sherwin, let's hear from double 7. 007. It would be interesting to see how CWI go about investing the money in the region's game. One suggestion from you, Basil, and one from you, Dwight.
My suggestion is we have all the territorial franchises. They have to be able to have hands-on, because remember, they fund these things. They must, and they said they are, to be more hands-on and to make sure that is a high performance setup, which, for example, you will have a batting coach and a bowling coach, for example, right? So it must mirror what we will have at the elite level, at the international level, at the regional level, because everywhere around the world, first class cricket is the same thing at the first class that you will engage at the elite level. And right now we still like amateurs at the franchise level. So that would be
one suggestion for you quickly, Baz, Dwight.
Oh man, you limit me to one suggestion. All right. I think number one suggestion for me, and I'm gonna sneak in the other suggestion, even though you tell me I can only get one. One is that I'd like to see the implementation of an under 23 cricket tournament.
Yes.
I have been watching the regional tournament, and I think that there's so much talent in the Caribbean right now, but there is a lot of good cricketers who right now will have to sit it out and wait until they can break into their first class teams before they can play regular cricket. And I think that's a shame. And I think the statistics that we have right now is that we're losing a lot of cricketers after the age of 19, because unless they can break into a first class cricket team, they basically have to sit and wait 4 or 5 years if they're committed before they can get a place on the team and before they can look to really surge in their career. So I think having an under 23, maybe even to call it an under 25 cricket program, where we take those top 20, those top 23 to 25 year, under 23, under 25-year-old, and give them an annual tournament to play. And I think is a step in the right direction. And just while you're looking, so you don't realize I snuck in a second suggestion. I think we need to put back money in the grassroots development program and in the kiddie cricket development program in West Indies cricket. One of the things that we see is that those programs have been eroded over the years, have gone down to nothing over the years, and I think we need to properly reinvest in those programs.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Basil.
To what he said, I wouldn't say under 23. I would actually have something like a second 11 tournament, just like you see in England. So therefore, you would still have like senior guys playing with these young guys. That would be their entry level and you got senior guys who are not going to play for West Indies anymore, but they still have a role in the continued development of our players, young players coming through. So I would have it more like a second 11. And so you could have a situation a guy in performing well at the top, he can go back down to second 11, and the second 11 guy go up to the first class thing, so, like what they have in England. I think that would be more, because you could get youngsters at 16, 17, 18 in second 11 teams.
Yes.
Okay.
Kalonji, I'm trying to understand. I personally do not have an issue with Cricket West Indies website as of such. But my experience may not necessarily be another person's experience. What I do know though is that they tends to get the cricket scorecard wrong a lot. The other day I saw them put up somebody like, I think Kevin Sinclair was a wicket keeper or something like that. And a lot of little things. If you're at the match, what you are seeing, if you check the West Indies website, sometimes there's a different thing on it. I have an issue with the scorecard, but overall, I do not have an issue with the Cricket West Indies website. Do any of you gentlemen have that experience?
What I would like them to be a little bit user friendly, because say for example you want to find something about committees, you got to go through a lot of hoops to jump through to get to the page to click on to read about the committees or say the selection policy or so on. I think they should have a tab just right there, selection policy, click, or something like that. I think they could be more user friendly. That would be my criticism of it.
Dwight?
I don't think the site is bad at all, but like Baz, I believe there's more information that we could get, in terms of even some of the things that we're discussing now, in terms of what the selection policy is. But for me, what I'd like to see generally is just for them to broaden what I call their digital footprint, and for us to be able to engage a lot more with the players. That's for me, and even with the selectors. I think this whole idea of being able to sit and hear the selectors discuss their thoughts about the selection of players and the non-selection of players and where their thoughts are. I think that should be something that is just standardized and something that we'll be able to sit and watch on Twitter or watch on Facebook or whatever the situation is. I definitely think that there should be a broadening of their digital footprint. But I take the concerns about the website.
I think you hit a good point there. I just want to, because I never thought about that. Because here in the United States, when they get the draft and so on, right? At times they would show you in the draft room the discussion between the coaches and the scouts and how they come to the consensus to draft player X. I don't see why we can't. We're still in the dark ages, like in the Caribbean. Everything must be under the table, right?
That's why Anne Brown can get away with whatsoever she's doing.
Exactly.
007 is here saying that he think that we should not only wait on the test team, but we should organize a team tour with England. And he's saying that while he was working as a groundsman, he used to see plane loads of Englishmen coming down to watch cricket in the winter. And so 18 tours from England can also generate money. You think that's a wise move?
Unfortunately, 18 tours don't generate money. 18 tours are investment. That has always been one of our bugbears in the past, because we didn't have the capital, right? That to do an 18 tour, because 18 tours, nobody don't watch 18 games. I mean, in big crowd, you don't get television revenue, because at the end of the day, it's television revenue that drives it. How many people turning on? I mean, Sir Carlton, how many of us was looking at the South Africa A team and West Indies? You probably could come to that.
That is true.
And that is us just clicking in the comfort of our homes, right? People are going to the ground to see a team. That's an investment in the future.
I read the investment that was brought up by Athena. One of our colleagues, Bobby Brown, is saying that he would buy some shares. I would.
Me too. I would buy shares too.
007 say that he would buy some also. Basil, I think it was Dwight. And this, I know Dwight, this is just really, I don't want to read the semantics, but just different opinion. But I think more or less 007 agree with your suggestion of under 23. He says under 25. We understand that is just a matter of different opinion. So
Yeah.
007 agreeing with your opinion there. Brian H, welcome to the show, man. We need, thank you. Yes, please slash a like on the video and click on that subscribe button and share it with your friends. It doesn't even take 2 seconds. So thank you very much, Brian H. Mr. Casanova again just giving another age bracket, and so that suggestion is resonating. Dwight, as you see here, Westfield Williams is also, so that suggestion is really resonating.
You know, let me say something to Basil. Basil, I thought long and hard about that same suggestion you made about having senior players playing the team. And I'll tell you, Basil and I had a conversation once, and I was really stirred by the stuff that he shared. He said his father, even when he was not playing West Indies for the West Indies, would still play what we would call senior cup cricket. Senior cup cricket is back in Guyana.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, if I could have been playing cricket with Basil Senior, I mean that would have been phenomenal for me as a youngster. Yeah. And I thought that
seem to have just lost Dwight there. I mean, Basil.
Yeah, because,
Basil, before Sherwin is our good friend, Basil.
Yeah.
And I always love Sherwin. Welcome back, Dwight. We lost you there for a minute, but I'm really glad that Sherwin is here to entertain us today. Because Sherwin is saying now that he's not around his computer. So we can see what he's typing. But he made a hero with typing computer. Understand? It doesn't end here. It doesn't end here. He also made a hero with typing cricket. Sherwin, we're really glad that you are here, Sherwin, because you allow us to laugh. And Sherwin is our good friend. He's our good friend. He's always a part of this debate.
But Chateau, the point that you made there, I've been told by guys when my dad was playing in the 70s, up to the early 80s, he stopped playing club cricket. He was close to 50 at the time. Guys said just being on the same field with Basil Butcher was cricket development for them, because they got to see up close somebody who was an international player of a high caliber. And one of the things my dad used to do, because he always said 99%, I don't know if the percentage is correct, but the point is, he learned 99% of his cricket in the dressing room. And he would, after the day's play, sit down in the pavilion with whichever team, guys from the team, they could come. He would tell them, go in the car, I got a bottle of rum in there, and sit down with them for 2 hours and talk cricket with them, right? Okay. We don't have that anymore in our system, in our structure. That was part and parcel. I heard Jimmy Adams himself say...
We have a few minutes leave, gentlemen, so just let's go through some comments quickly. I'm sorry to break it here, Basil. We'll definitely give you an opportunity to continue that the next time. Sure. But 007 is saying that England clubs used to travel to Antigua to play cricket with our school clubs, and they even invite students over to England in the same summer to play.
They do that in Barbados too.
Okay. He's saying that every team should have a speed gun. At least Sherwin got the spelling right on that occasion. Congratulations, Sherwin. Well done, my friend. Congratulations. So we would have addressed that already, Kermie, all the profit. We definitely hope, and the gentlemen have given some suggestions, and you can give some suggestion too. You see, I think he wants to say their prime, but he said here prime. So I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Sherwin. I don't know.
You got to give Sherwin a call after the show, Sir Carter.
Yes. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here. It was fascinating going through the women team and going through the report. So, the report itself can take an entire day to discuss, But and I know you guys have a lot more to say about it. I want to thank the audience for being here, because without you being here, we'll definitely will not have a show. And you are all part of this great community. There will be some under 15 matches played tomorrow. Under 15, the Rising Star competition. Please watch those. But Basil, Guyana winning some gold medal at the Carifta, man. Congratulations to them.
Carlton,
Yes.
one of my Guyanese friends I had to ask him if he's smoking cheap weed. When I said Guyana leading in the medal, he said, "What you expect?" I said, "Wait, you forget they got a place named Jamaica in the English-speaking Caribbean? Like you forget about that? Don't get off too high. Jamaica is unequivocally the #1 place in this region when it comes to track and field. We're doing a good job, but don't get overexcited."
Yes, they did win some medals yesterday. Thank you all for tuning in. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you in a bit. Take care now. Have a great Sunday evening.